Hi, in this video, we will do a Metasploitable 2 Linux walkthrough. Our aim is to get as many shells as we can by exploiting vulnerable applications on the platform. We will get 8 shells. So what you can see here is the network topology. Very simple topology we have here. Kali sitting at 10.2.53 and Metasploitable 2 at 10.2.52 on the same network segment. There are no routers, so they're just on the same network segment. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to test for reachability. So I'm on Kali here. So I have a dual home setup with 2 IP addresses, but we'll be using the 10.2.2.53 Eth1. So let's see if we can reach our target, which is 10.2.2.52, and you can see that the pings are replying. So let's clear that, and then next we're going to do a scan, but because that could take a short while, I've done that already, and I used the network mapper. So did a version scan with all ports, that's 0 and above, 65535, and T is to set the speed, so 4 is pretty fast. Okay, so this is target IP address, sudo for admin privileges or root privileges. So you can see that because we have this V option, we have the version names. So these are the services that are currently running on the target. We will get shells from 8 of them, at least 8 of them, for this video. So we're looking at getting 8 shells. I have them here as well, so we will annotate this PowerPoint slide as we proceed. So before we proceed, we're gonna start the Metasploit framework. So we're going to run that on this window. We'll start that with the msf console command. So that is going to take some seconds, approximately a minute to come up. So yeah, so starting Metasploit framework console. Yeah, it's best to do that as a root, so you can get all privileges when the program runs. Okay, we're up. So the first service that we are going to exploit is this one, the FTP service. Okay, so that's vsftpd daemon 2.3.4 running on a TCP 21. So we are going to exploit that service. So back here, remember that it's running on TCP 21. We could search for a usable module using the search command. We could specify the port using port 21. We could specify the type as well. So we're looking for exploits. And if you hit enter now, you'd see lots of exploits running designed to attack services on TCP 21. You can see most of them are FTP, and all that. Or we could filter further using vsftpd, using the name of the service. That's why the svscan was used, so we can get the names of the services. So if we do this now, so you can see that we have a more filtered output. So we have returned modules. We've returned exploit modules that target TCP port 21. Okay, so using the name as well. So we got this module as an exploit module, and it's the vsftpd 234 backdoor. So you could find information or read information about this by using info and the number, as it is also stated here in the comments. So with that, this is what we have. So it gives you some platform information, ranking as well. Date was disclosed, And another thing you want to look at maybe the available targets. This is automatic. Some list the targets, as we'll see in the next modules that we're going to use. Then you can see this basic options. It's very, very important to note which options are required. They would have a yes in this column. And then the rhost is where you would enter the targets. Okay, remote host, you could use that to remember. And then the description explains how the vulnerability exists, what's the reason for this vulnerability. In this case, a malicious backdoor was added into this archive, this tarball archive, and it was eventually discovered and removed. So usually the references will contain links to maybe CV databases or some other notes about the vulnerability. So we use the info to read about it. So we would use the use command, so use 0 to load that module. So you can see that it's defaulting to the interact cmd Unix payload. We could view the options again using the options command. So this will show us a little the module options that it showed us when we did the intro, when we did the info, and then it shows us the payload options as well. So in this case, it's defaulted to cmd Unix interact with an automatic target. So we need to set our hosts. So we would set that using the set command. So set our hosts. It mustn't be uppercase, it can be lowercase as well. So set our hosts to the target IP address. Okay, so let's look at options to see what we've done. So you configure and you verify. So we verify by using the options command again to see what we've set so far. And so we've set the our hosts. So we have the interact payload is set. So as we are here, we could actually run this to see if it's going to work. Okay, let's see. Okay, didn't work. Let's run it again. So yes, so now it's using the root. It's logging in as root. Okay, and it's found a shell. So this is the first shell that we have gotten. So let's see. So yeah, we are Metasploitable, right? So let's see who we are. Who am I? So the ID also says we are root. Return UID 0. Who am I is also root. Okay, so we can use IP DDR grep. So let's see. So we are 10.2.2.52. So we have successfully gotten the first shell. Okay, so we've gotten the first shell using the vsftpd backdoor module. So let's clear that, and we'll return to our slide and annotate this. So we will cross this out. We've gotten a shell using the vsftpd 234 daemon. The next application that we are going to exploit is let's look at java-rmi. So we're going to look at java-rmi and running on TCP 1099. TCP 1099. So we are going to search. So as we did the last time, we'll search 1099. Let's use the type exploits. So let's see. Okay, so in this case we have two exploits. Excuse me. We have two exploits available. We can see this first one is java-rmi. So you could even use the keyword java-rmi to get you one. So as you can see, so we added the search string, and it returned exploits modules for TCP 1099 that have java-rmi in them. So just a way to filter your searches so you don't have too much output. As usual, you use info and the number here to the number of the module, the serial number, to read about it. So in this case, you can see that you can see platform information, and then you can see available targets. So now you see that you don't just have automatic, you have generic Windows 32-bit, Linux 32-bit, macOS, and macOS X. So you have various options here. However, we would use the generic payload, which would deploy a Java a jar application to which will contain the reverse shell. Another important section is the basic options. So you can see that there are quite a lot of them that are required here. Very important is the R hosts and the server hosts, which we will set. Note the R port, which should be the same as what we got in our nmap scan. So that tells you that that's the target port that we're going to attack. And now this explains how the vulnerability exists. So looking at a default configuration of the RMI service, which is like a remote method invocation or something like that. So it will deploy a Java application and run that, and that is what is going to contain our reverse shell. So, but you can read more about that. Yeah, you have the National Vulnerability Database and CVE details. So if you want to really understand how this works, you can read these and get more information about them from there. So as we did the last time, we will use the use command to load the module, and now you see that it has defaulted to the Java Metasploitable reverse TCP payload. As usual, we use options to see what we can set. And now it notes that it defaulted to this payload and loaded lhost and lport. So lhost is the, to remember, you can say listening host or local host, so that you can just remember. It is the IP address on the attacker that listens to catch the reverse shell. So we don't want to use, remember I have a dual home setup for Kali, 10.1.167 and 10.2.2.53, but I want to use the IP address on the network segment as the target. So I want to use the 10.2.2.53 IP address. We will also change the L port to 443, as victims or targets will always have 443, which is HTTPS outbound on their network. So they will always allow it outbound. Nobody's really going to allow 444 for outbound on their network. So let's proceed to begin to set the module options before we set the payload options. So set our hosts, that's going to be our target, and then what I like to call server host is the local host or network address to listen on, where it's going to download the Java payload from. So let's see, set srv host 10.2.2.53, which is the attacker, because the victim is going to call back and download something payload and then execute it. Okay, so next thing we're going to set, so if you look, we now have all the yeses, all the required module options have been set. So let's go over to the payload options. So we set lhost to the same IP address as our server host, and then we set lport to 443. After configuration, it's good to always verify. So now you see that we have all required, excuse me. So we see that we have all required options set. Okay, and next we look at the payload options. Okay, so we have also set the lhost and the lport. All right, so next thing we're going to do, and again the target, we're using the generic targets. Okay, so let's try to run this and see what happens. So you can see that it's hosted a payload on the attacker, and boom. Sorry. So yeah, so we've got our shell. So this is a Metasploitable shell. So you have various Metasploitable commands. If you do help, you see Metasploitable commands that you can use, okay, to do lots of things on the Metasploitable shell. But we'll just use sysinfo to get information about the remote system. So let's enter sysinfo, and you can see that we are Metasploitable Linux, and that's our target. You can also drop you can also drop to a bash shell by using the shell command, okay, and that will give you a bash shell where you can still enter your bash commands like this. So you can see that we have a shell to target, okay, so ID, so we are root in this case, and usually the grmi will work as well, so we are root. Okay, so let's exit to Metasploitable and let's exit the module. So we have successfully exploited a second application and gotten another shell. So that is our second one. So let's cross this out. Okay, I didn't cross that out well, but yeah, I think you get the idea, right? So let's cross this out a little bit more properly now. So we have used that one. So the next application that we are going to exploit to get a shell is distributed CC daemon. So this one, we're going to look at this, and it runs on TCP 3632. So 3632, as usual, we will search, okay, for using the port number, port 3632. Okay, let's look for an exploit. let's look for dist. Okay, yeah, so you can see, so we use the port number and the type of the module we're looking for. An exploit module, you could have auxiliary modules, you could have scanner modules, you could have post exploitation modules. There are different modules you could have in Metasploit framework. We're looking for exploit modules, and this is just a string that should be in that module. So we have distcc exec, which is a distcc daemon command execution, which is excellent, and we're really happy to see this. So if you want to find more information about it, you could use the info 0 as we always do, and then you'd see basic module options as well as how the vulnerability worked. In this case, a security weakness in the application. You could read more about that here. So without much ado, let's use 0 to load that module. So you can see that it defaulted to CMD Unix reverse bash. I'm not sure that's going to work, but we will try that and see if it does. If it doesn't work, we'll change the payload to something else. So as usual, we can see that our host is required. So let's just go ahead and set that. We already know what it is, the target 10.22.52, and then yes, like we did in the last time, it already automatically picked one of the IP addresses and set it to MSF default 4444. But we don't want that, so let's set lhost to 10.22.53 and set lport to 443. Okay, and then after configuring, it's always good to verify. So we verify using the options, and then now we have that all these options have been set, and note the payload CMD Unix reverse bash. I'm not sure that's going to work, but let's try it. So we can already see that it has some bad file descriptors, no sort file directory, giving us some standard errors, so that didn't work. So let's change the payload, right? So we can change the payload using the set payload command. Tab twice will do auto completion, and then tab again twice or once will show you the available payloads we can use. So in this demo, we're going to use two payloads. We would use generic, and then we would use reverse. So let's start with reverse. So reverse. Okay, so we hit enter and then we verify. So the payload has changed from reverse_bash to just reverse. And now our lhost and lport have remained the same. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to run this to see if it's going to work. So run. So we have that a shell has been opened. All right, so let us now, as usual, who am I? We're daemon. Okay, ID UID 1. Remember, we So when you exploit a program, the user you get will usually be the user of that service. Excuse me. And then you would have the privilege levels of that user. So in this case, we got the daemon user, yes, we are Metasploitable. So yes, so this is one method to exploit the DistCC. So we used one payload. Let's use a different payload, right? So we used cmd unix reverse here. Let's now go use another payload. Set payload cmd. Let's use generic. Okay. The thing with generic is that it doesn't have. You'd have to enter a bash, a reverse shell script here as the cmd args argument. Okay, so there's a parameter and there's a parameter cmd and it takes some args. So we need to put in the args that we're going to use. So let's do set cmd, and this command I'm going to enter here is I'm going to explain that 443-e bin bash. So what this is going to do is I'm going to verify now that it's there. So what this is going to do is going to send this command over to the target and then execute this bash script. So it's a very tiny bash script using netcat -n, which is not doing resolutions. We really don't want it to be verbose, but I'm just putting it there because I mean, when you're demonstrating in the lab, you want to see what's really going on. But now it's going to connect to the attacker, which is us, on 443. Of course, we're going to set up a listener to listen to catch this shell. And -e says when you connect to this target, -e says execute this command. So we're going to execute bin bash. So in essence, this is a reverse shell script saying when Metasploit framework deploys this payload on the target will run this command and offer us, the attackers, their shell. So this is a typical reverse shell scenario. So before we run this exploit, let's come back to this other window, and then, so let's clear this out, and then do a sudo netcat, and then we listen. Okay, so n is no resolutions, L is listen, V is be verbose, and P is port 443. Okay, so now we are listening on port TCP 443 to catch this shell, which this payload is going to deploy. All right, so now we're going to run. Okay, so of course you're going to get maybe some errors because it's not a metapreter payload and all that. So we're not going to set up a listener here. You can set one in MSF, but we set our listener outside MSF. So now you can see that we have a shell. So let's say, who am I? We are still daemon. Okay. So you see, so we are still daemon, but we've gotten our shell outside Metasploit framework. So you can see, so that's one. It's the second way you can exploit distccd and any other module that takes a generic payload. You can enter the bash. Okay, so let's clear this and go back here. So that is, so we have, so we clear this as well. So going back to our tracker, so we have now exploited distccd. Okay, so we can cross that out. Yeah, as far as I can go. Okay, so we can cross that out. So that's the third service that we exploited. So we've gotten 3 shells now. Excuse me. The next one we're going to look at is PostgreSQL. Okay, so this runs on 5432. Okay, so let's go over to Metasploit framework and do what we've done similarly in the past. So PostgreSQL, that one runs on 5432. So we'll search port 5432. Okay, and let's look at type again, exploit. So now let's hit enter. So you see that we have quite a number of them here. You could remember you could also use PostgreSQL, okay, or let's do Postgres. So you see it still gives us exactly the same number because all of them have Postgres in them, okay. But you're sure that the target 5432, and as you can see they are all of type exploits, okay. So now let's go with let's look at this one. This is the one that's for Linux, okay. You could also use info2 like we have always done to view. So in this case we're using 2, not 0, because there are many. So info2 to look at number 2, and we can see that the R port of course rhymes with what we got in our scan. And you can see architecture, platform information. Yeah, you could also filter with platform. That's one thing you can also filter with. But you can see platform information, and you could see available targets. Okay, and very important is the module basic options. Okay, excuse me. So here you can see that R hosts is required, as well as some other things that have default settings there. So the description will give you more information on default Linux installations. There's a directory that you upload user-defined functions, and that those user-defined functions could have remote reverse shells, which is how this actually works. So if you read this, you get more information about that. So we used info2, so let's use 2 to load the module that we're interested in. So you can see, as before, it's defaulted to Linux 32-bit Metasploitable reverse TCP shell payload. So let's look at options again. So now let's quickly set our target. Okay, and then so we've set this. Then let's set our L host and let's set our L port. And after doing settings, you want to view options. So you can see that we've set our R host, so everything that's required is yes. We're assuming that this is a default installation, so I'm going to use this username and template1 of the database. And then the L hosts, we're using this defaulted payload, right? And then we're using the Linux 32-bit target. Okay, so with everything set, let's hit run to see if this is going to work. Fine, quickly too. So you can see that you can read through this to see what it did. So this is the UDF that it uploaded to that directory, and then that's how we got our shell. So as usual, sysinfo will give information about the target, and you can also drop to a shell where you can now enter bash commands, and you can see the ID has said that we are, okay, you can also do that we are the Postgres user with the UID 108. Okay, and we're actually on the Metasploitable device. So this is the 4th shell that we have successfully obtained. So let's exit this and exit this. Okay, so that's the 4th shell that we have obtained. So let's return to our tracker to update that appropriately. So let's cross PostgreSQL out. So we'll cross that out as far as I can go. All right, so the next one we are going to look at is UnrealIRCd daemon, which is an internet relay chat daemon. So that runs on TCP 6667. Okay, so let's go in and search as we have always done. So we will go in and search as we have always done, using search port 667. Then type is the exploit. Let's do Unreal. So let's just, so yeah, we got exactly one result. So it has an excellent rank, and it's a backdoor command execution. Okay, so you could use info0 to read about it. So it has not that many required options as well, and just like the vsftpd, a malicious backdoor was included in this archive, and of course it was later found out and remediated. So that is it with this exploit. So let's load it, okay, using the use command, and we've loaded it. So let's look at the options. So we can see that this is the option, the rhost is needed. So rhost 10.22.52. So with some modules, right, if you see there is no payload listed, right? But if you run it now, we're going to get an error because it requires a payload, right? But it's not listed here as what you can set. We just have module options and then exploit targets, which is set automatic. So let's try and run it, we will get an error saying a payload has not been selected, right? However, when we did options, we didn't see any payload options to load, so it can be confusing at times. So you can actually set payload, and of course using your double tab to give you a hint of what you can use. Okay, excuse me. So in this case, let's use the reverse. Okay, and now when you've set the payload and you look at options again, you now see payload options. Okay, and then you can set your L host and your L port. So setting L host is like what we've done all along. So L host to the attacker's IP address 10.22.53, and then we want to set L port to something other than 44.44, which everybody's going to block outbound anyways, right? So everybody's going to allow for 43 outbound HTTPS. So you view your options, and now we have everything set and ready to run. So let's also run this exploit now. Sorry, run. Okay, so sending backdoor command, and yeah, so a shell has been obtained. So let's do who am I, and we're root. Nice. So we're root. UID 0 is root. Okay. So so that's us. Okay. So we're our target. Okay. so yeah, so we have gotten another shell successfully. So and we got that using the UnrealIRCd 3281 backdoor module. Okay, so let's back and clear, and let's go update our tracker. So that has been successfully exploited. So let's clean this up and cross IRC. So we've used that one. Okay, so right now we've gotten 5 shells. Okay, we've gotten 5 shells. The next application we are going to exploit is remote shell. Okay, so we're going to look at this one. So it's actually login. Okay, and it's on TCP 513. So yeah, so this one is going to be a bit different. We are not going to use the Metasploit framework. So we will use these. But to exploit this application, right, we need to have RSH clients. Okay, so let's do apt policy. So this is to check if it's installed, and you can see I have it installed. But if you don't have it installed, you can do sudo apt install rsh client. So so you see I already have it, so it didn't, 0 upgraded, 0 newly installed. Okay, so I already have it. So we're going to use rsh client. It comes with the rlogin function, okay, which we are going to use now. Excuse me. So let's use rlogin, okay, and so this is the command we're going to use. So rlogin -l, which specifies the user to use and login, and the target IP address. So we have rlogin -l root, then the target IP address. Okay, then we hit enter. Okay, so that is going to automatically connect using TCP 513. Okay, and as you can see, we have gotten a shell. All right, so we have gotten a shell, and you can do, I mean, we're already here, and we are root at Metasploitable, so we already know we are root, right? So so we are target, we are 10 to 252. So that is the sixth shell way of getting a shell on Metasploitable. So I mean, in enterprise networks, this kind of service definitely should not be running on any server that will give someone a shell access like that. So yeah, so but this is Metasploitable, so that's the number 6. Okay, so that was a very quick one, very quick. So we can update our tracker. So let's so the first thing you have to make sure that you have RSH installed, RSH clients installed, and then you use the rlogin command, okay, or application to log into the target. Okay, so the next one we're going to use is very brief as well, is the Metasploitable root shell. As you can see, that one runs on 1524. So again, this is a Metasploitable thing, so it's just a quick way to get a shell, and that is going to be done in basically very little time. So it's just using netcat to connect on 1524. As you can see, that's the port is running on. We don't want any name resolutions. I'm going to be verbose to see what's going on, a little bit verbose. So we will connect using netcat to the target on TCP 1524. That should give us a shell immediately. So let's hit enter. So you can see. So we have our shell, and as again you see that we are root. So yes, we are on a target. So that's the seventh way to get a shell. So that's the 7th way to get a shell on a Metasploitable 2 Linux platform. Very straightforward, very easy. Just note the service is open, and then log in basically on that port using netcat. Okay, so let's now go return to our tracker and update the tracker accordingly. So we have used bindshell. Okay, all right, so we're moving on to the last shell for this video and we're going to look at that's VNC. Okay, so we're going to look at VNC that's running on 5900. Okay, TCP 5900. So let's now return to excuse me. So let's clear this and return to the MSF console, Metasploit framework. Okay, so here we're going to scan the service to see what credentials can be used to log in, which ideally would be like a brute force kind of thing. So in this case, this is a demonstration. So the brute force list is pretty small. Okay, but we'll see that as we proceed. So now, as usual, with search using the ports. Sorry, search ports 5900. Okay, VNC. We're using a scanner, so it's auxiliary. Okay, so let's hit enter and see what we got. Okay, fine. So there are not that many. Okay, but this we're going to look at this one. Okay, so we searched using the for modules on port 5900 and with string VNC. So this returned auxiliary and exploit. If you don't want to see exploit there, you could use type and auxiliary. Okay, so you could see that there is no exploit, so you just return the auxiliary module. So you could just tell you how you could use type. Previously we were using type exploit, now we're using type auxiliary. So now we're going to look at auxiliary scanner VNC login. So let's read about it and see what it says. So it says this module will test the VNC server for a range of machines and report successful logins. Okay, currently so it just reports successful logins and it will tell you the credential it used. Very importantly, look at this password this text file. Okay, so in there, the default, it has only one password there, so it contains passwords 1 per line, but I put in 3 more, so it will just, so you can see how this kind of works. Okay, so user share Metasploitable framework data word list. So let's just go in there and see. So let's use vim user. Okay, yeah, autocomplete my friend, right? So so let's see what's in there. So yeah, default, it had only this password, but I added admin root and msf admin. So in practice, you'd want to use something, maybe rocky rocky.txt database or something very huge. Okay, so you find the credential that will log into the VNC service, and then we will proceed from there. Okay, so let's quit this. Okay, so let's go back to here, and so we did info 3. So let's now load the scanner using use 3. Okay, and the view options again. So you can see some are required, some are required. So let's see, our host is required and is not set. So let's set our hosts. Okay, 10.22.52. Okay. Now stop on success is set to false, right? If you have a very, very large password list, okay, you would want to set this to true so that immediately it gets a successful credential, it will stop there and it will be easy to see. But I'm going to leave this to false now so that you can see how it lists how it runs through the passwords. Okay, because we have a very short list anyway, right? So let's run, because let's run that. Okay, let's verify. So we've set our hosts, so let's verify using the options again. So we've set our hosts, and you can see that everything that's required is set, has a value. Okay, so it shouldn't break for any reason. Okay, so everything that's required has a value. And so yes, and of course verbose is set to true. If you don't want to see anything, you can just set verbose to false. But let's see, if you don't see our attempts, okay, you can set that to false. Okay, so let's now run, and so you can see, because verbose is set to true, it showed all these failed ones, and and then it didn't stop after we got this successful one, because stop on success is also set to false. If you set this to true, it will display only this, only the first one, and then to stop there, it won't show all these other ones. All right, so now good news is that we have a credential that works, and it's just password. If you look at, you've noticed tried admin, root, msf admin, those were all incorrect. You could also use username as pass. Okay, if you want to use username, login, and various way brute force works, right? Yeah, it's a dictionary attack. Sorry, not brute force. It's just a dictionary. Okay, so so yes, so we now have a password from this dictionary. Okay, so it's from this word list. Okay, so now next thing we're going to do is we're going to come out of we're going to leave this here and go to another shell. Okay, and then use the VNC viewer command. Okay, and then put the IP address of the target and the port. Okay, 5900. Remember that, TCP 5900 from the scan, and hit enter, and then you would enter the password which you just got from here. Okay, so we're entering password. Okay, so let's enter password. It's not going to show it, but it's going to be there, and boom, we're in. Okay, and we've gotten our final shell. And of course we are root at Metasploitable. Okay, so as you know, with VNC, it will give you a graphical user interface. So so as you can see, we're here, we are on our target. Okay, so we are root. Okay, so that's our final shell. And I mean, if you close this, you can always come back to applications, shells, and bash to open it again, and you'll be there. So you could do many things with VNC. All right, so that's our final shell. Okay, and so let's clear this. So one more thing before finally let's update our tracker. And okay, so we have VNC, and one more thing before we close. If you notice, we just did we just looked at applications directly here, but remember, if you look at this, you have HTTP here. Okay, and there are more services that we could exploit. There are more services that we could exploit running on that HTTP there. So let me just show you briefly what I mean. Okay, so let me show you briefly what I mean. All right, so let me open a browser and do HTTP 10.2.2.52, right? So now, if you look at this, you have utility, which is a vulnerable web application, and we also have the damn vulnerable web app. Okay, so admin, so yeah, or you could do an online brute force, an online dictionary attack to see if this works. But these are vulnerable applications that were built to be hacked. So in another video, I will demonstrate how you can also get web shells by exploiting various those web applications. Okay, so if you would like to see any of those, just let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comment section, and I would be quick to release those videos. So that said, this is the end of this video, and I hope this has been helpful to you. If you are happy with it, please like it and subscribe, because I will be uploading various videos. And thank you.